So this correction, by the way, I've seen these articles recently say the monetary debasement trade is dead, right? And I'm like, no,
Right.
no, I don't think so. I think it's just getting warmed up.
So gold, for example, since it was demonetized in 1971, gold has gone through multiple periods where it doubled or dropped by 2 or 3x, or by half, 2/3.
We'll know the monetary debasement trade is dead when they talk about entitlement reform and debt.
Well, and unfortunately, if you look in history, it's not going to get it resolved.
I think the notion, I believe in the notion of a treasury company. I think that the purists who don't think we should have treasury companies are being naive, that just like they don't think we should have ETFs. I mean, there's no way that Bitcoin really becomes the widely adopted monetary standard that we hope it to be without it infiltrating and kind of crawling through what's now kind of Wall Street, where all the money is. And of course, eventually a lot of the Wall Street shit will die, but you can't get from here to there without having these products in the interim. And so, I think strategy in general has done all of the right stuff and has done a very good job of, pivoting as needed. Obviously he's made some changes. He's done some things that he said he wouldn't do. But I think he did them after he learned, something new about the conditions. And to my way of seeing it, the fact that he's kind of keeping everybody off balance and saying, I'm going to do what's ever in the company's best interest. And if that means selling Bitcoin, I'll sell Bitcoin. Because if he's selling it, if the price of the company, if the market value is a discount to the underlying value of the Bitcoin, he's better off buying the stock back than he is buying Bitcoin. So, to me, he's given himself more levers, and I think he's maturing as a manager. I'm a big strategy holder, a big believer, a big bull. I think it's going to go to 1,000 plus a share on the common. And, but I own more Bitcoin than I do strategy because it's a levered bet. And I never advocate that anyone use leverage, too much leverage. I think a little bit of leverage, if you want to be aggressive, is fine. But somebody, I think you start, if you're in the sound money, if you believe in the sound money thesis, you start by owning the prime asset, which is Bitcoin. And the best way to own it is in self-custody. But, there are some people who aren't prepared for that. And so if they want to buy an ETF, fine. And then there's some people who want more, more juice. And so if they want to buy MicroStrategy, fine, but understand what you're doing. It's more volatile. I mean, Bitcoin's down 50%, MicroStrategy's down 70% from its high last year. So that's the nature of leverage. So I think the company's evolving. I'm incredibly bullish. I was disappointed to see some of the people in the industry attack him and say he was being disingenuous or not fully disclosing what's going on. I mean, if you go to the strategy website, they've got literally every single fact. You can watch what this company is doing day by day, almost hour by hour. So to my way of seeing it, there's really nothing they're hiding. And, you either believe that Bitcoin's going to work, in which case this company will work, or if you think Bitcoin's going to fail, well, then you can make an argument the strategy will fail sooner because it's leveraged. And that's an acceptable argument. But I don't think Bitcoin's going to fail. I think the return on Bitcoin is going to well exceed the cost of Strategy's capital, which right now is 12% on the preferred. And I think the ARR on Bitcoin is going to be well above 12% for decades. So I'm not very worried about it, but it's interesting to me. There are a lot of, one of the problems with this whole Bitcoin adoption thesis is that we've got people coming into Bitcoin who don't know anything about markets. And if you've been in markets a long time, you understand what markets do. They go up and down. And if you study Bitcoin, it's had a bunch of big corrections. This correction, by the way, is the smallest of all the ones up until now. And with every one, it gets less. First one's 90%, then 80, then 70, then 60. This one's 55 or something percent. So to me, we're going in the right direction. As volatile as it is, it's becoming less volatile. So I'm a big bull on strategy, and I'm a big bull on Bitcoin. And I'm disappointed in some people who've taken shots at strategy. Because I think on balance, strategy has been a huge positive for the Bitcoin community.
Peter?
Yeah, so I think a lot of this is just downstream of our world is sort of mimicking the boom bust of the fiat world. Now, in the case of fiat world, that's by design. Right, it's designed to overinflate, and then it's designed to cut that off with recessions. Of course, they don't want recessions; just want to inflate forever. But it's essentially designed to have this boom bust mechanism. And during the boom stage, you're going to get all kinds of exotic, leverage products. And then during the bust stage, a lot of those are going to tank. Now, in our case, I think sort of the cause of this is simply the volatility in Bitcoin, as Larry mentioned, that's decreasing over time. I think it's also important that, people sort of put this in perspective. So gold, for example, since it was demonetized in 1971, gold has gone through multiple periods where it doubled or dropped by 2 or 3x, or by half, 2/3, in like a 2 or 3 year period, right? So naively, if somebody did not know the history of gold, you would say, that's ridiculous. This can never be a currency. How the hell could you have a currency that booms and busts? And of course, the reason is because it's not the dominant currency at the moment. So it doesn't have that ballast, right? So I don't think, the sort of boom bust aspect of Bitcoin price, I think it's just part of the territory. Gold has it too. Now, gold, you don't get, to a certain degree, you also, with gold, you get, you get like gold-backed credit cards, and, you get certain financial innovations when gold's having a good time. It tends, gold is like the ultimate, diamond hands, right? Because it's got so much history that the major buyers in the gold stick around. But yeah, I think, this is just our version of the fiat boom bust. I don't think it's a problem with Bitcoin. It's just part of the path towards becoming the dominant currency. We're going to keep gaining market share gradually, but we're still a couple decades away from that flip.
Very interesting. I'll continue with that then, Peter. So just if we're looking out, just for the fun of it, if we're looking out towards the end of the year, what are you kind of thinking for the sound money camp, Bitcoin, gold, silver? Where do you see things in the shortish to medium term?
If I had to guess, we're going to stabilize. I think most of the drop so far this year has been AI sucking the oxygen out of the room, where the number go up crowd, are playing over there for the moment. Maybe they'll stick around. Maybe they'll come back if AI crashes. But I think the other part of it was just a reaction. Like, people forget how, gold and silver were absolutely on fire last year, and
lined up at Costco to buy gold. Costco.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think some of that is just reversion to the mean. The reversion of the mean spooks some people, and so they exit when they actually like the asset, but they get sick of getting punched in the face. But their memories are short, and so I think there's going to be a certain reversion to the mean of that, where we're going to get back to some growth. At which point it hands off to interest rates, and the $64,000 or the $5,000 gold question is whether Warsh is going to push through cuts, or is he going to sort of let rates creep up? And I agree with Larry that most likely the market is undervaluing the odds of cuts.
Excellent, Larry. Gold, silver, Bitcoin. Where are we looking end of year, next year? What are your thoughts?
So I'm pretty sure that when the next leg up starts, we're going to go to $7,000 gold, maybe $200 silver, and probably ultimately, I think $180,000 to $200,000 Bitcoin. But it could take, a year and a half to unfold. By the end, so we got 6 months left in this year. I kind of think we'll be at least back to testing the highs that we were at in all of them. I'm not sure we'll make new highs again in 6 months. That'd be an awfully quickly. But I kind of feel like, gold will be back in the, 54 to 6,000 range by year end, and Bitcoin will be back up in the 120 to 130 range. And they'll all kind of be on their way to much higher numbers. And I think what really drives that is that, just like there was a time, if you recall, when Doge was going to control government spending, right? And, Trump
Almost.
and Elon, remember that whole story? We're going to cut 2 trillion, we're going to cut 1 trillion. Yeah, maybe and at the end of the day, Elon threw up his hand and said, "This is hopeless," and he walked out. And what did they cut? Maybe 100, a billion? We don't know, but it wasn't a lot. And I think the same thing is going to happen with regards to the Fed. The billing and the narrative is, Warsh is going to get things under control, and he's going to raise interest rates, and he's Volcker 2.0, and it's all going to be fine. And you don't need, I've seen these articles recently say the monetary debasement trade is dead, right? And I'm like, no,
right.
No, I don't think so. I think it's just getting warmed up.
Yep.
It's like said to a woman, no, I'm just getting warmed up. I mean, we we had the first act, and yep, okay, they got a little ahead of themselves. I'll grant you that. Silver went from 50 to 120 really quickly. That's a little crazy, right? And we had to get rid of some of that froth and tourists and the excess steam. It's come back down to 60, but the next leg is coming, and the debasement trade's not dead. I mean, I'll tell you when the monetary, we'll know the monetary debasement trade is dead when they talk about entitlement reform and debt reform and balancing the budget and cutting government spending and, reducing the defense budget and blah, blah, blah. I mean, all the kinds of things that you would actually need to think that the government was being responsible. And I mean, you literally hear none of that, and I was commenting to somebody the other day. I just think it's amazing that even guys like Jerome Powell, who was trying to be Volcker, were saying things like, this can't go on forever. We can't just keep increasing the debt faster than GDP. It's a problem. We're going to have a problem at some point. And yet then you kind of, no bid the answer. Okay, Jerome, what are we going to do about it? And then nothing, silence,
Yeah.
So it's a real problem. Until it gets resolved, I mean, we're in an inflationary world, right?
Well, and unfortunately, if you look at history, it's not going to get it resolved until there's a crisis.
Well, that's right. That's exactly right, Peter. That's exactly right. And,
we'll wait.
and then maybe that crisis leads to a big print. I don't know. Somebody should write a book.
It probably does. Well, I just got to say that I, for one, think that the bottom will be October and we'll start moving up again then. For no reason than other, it's incredibly entertaining for everyone to say that there was no cycles or cycles are dead. And then without any possible explanation, we'll peak in October and start the next run on the next October just to fuck with everybody.
It's possible. I'm, maybe call me an optimist, a bullish optimist. I actually think we've seen the bottom in all three of these things right now.
I agree.
And I think the mask on the Fed is starting to slip. And I think by the end of the year, the mask will be completely fallen off, and everybody will go, "Oh shit, it's the same old, same old." They're just gonna have to print their way out of this, and when that becomes, I mean, remember, right now the market's still thinking rate hikes, Volcker 2.0, all that kind of stuff, and I think with his Sintra speech, I watched it very carefully, the body language, and I'm sure the whole market did too. He showed the mask started to slip just ever so slightly. And right after that speech, gold and silver caught a serious bid, like boom, they're up. And then Bitcoin kind of caught a bid. And so now, the last 3-4 days, it's just the beginning. I could be wrong. We could go back and retest the lows, go to 40 or 50,000 on Bitcoin. Who knows? That's entirely possible. Bottom in October. That's one scenario. I'm a little bit more optimistic. I think the bottoms are in, and I think we're going to start climbing out. And by the end of the year, we're going to be well into the next bull cycle. So.
And one of the most